Hello, and welcome to the e-learning success summit from lmspulse.com. My name is Stephen Laddick, and I'm the director at LMS Pulse. We put together this summit because we know that there's a lot of complexity and a lot of change happening in the e-learning space, right? So complexity comes from, what kind of technology you're using, what kind of pedagogy you're using, where do you meet your learners? All of these things are wrapped in this ball of change that is, it's pretty typical in sort of the tech world, but it's even more rapid today. There's a new LMS, there's a new piece of ed tech, there's a new add-on, there's a new plug-on every day. Is it blended learning? Is it micro learning? Is it, how are we actually, delivering the content that we're hoping learners are going to take home? And then where are you meeting your learner? When I went to school, it was paper and pencil. There's gray hair. I'm admitting how old I am here. But today, we're reaching our learners, on mobile devices, on tablets, on computers every day. And, we've got to figure out how do we do that effectively. So we wanted to bring together experts who can talk to us, cut through that noise and give us really practical and actionable advice about how do we create that learner success, and how do we create learner success for instructors and also entrepreneurs in this space as well. So I'm really excited right now to have on the stage with me Mike Weiss, who is the founder of Client Engagement Academy. Mike, as we do with everybody here in the summit, rather than having me botch your bio or try to read something, why don't you tell us about yourself and where you come from?
All right. Well, thanks for having me. And I want to say hello to everybody that's on. It's, as I say, the greatest time to be in online education, and also simultaneously the worst time. And I'll get to that in a moment. My background, I never thought I was going to be in online education. I started 30 years ago on Wall Street, and I was in the financial world for most of my career. And that was way before the internet. So I did everything through traditional methodologies, which means telephone calls, direct mail, and relationship.
You actually talk to humans? Like what?
Yes, relationship building, if you can imagine that. And so I was trained that you do everything to acquire a customer, but the relationship actually starts when you acquire the customer, which is the opposite of the online world. Because the online world is people spend 95% of their energy trying to acquire the customer. They put a credit card in, and then that's really the last time, unless they want to try to sell them something else, that they're really engaged in building that relationship. So that was one of the things that struck me as I began to pivot my business in the early 2000s and digitize my financial world. I recognized that I loved the online world, and I became an expert in digital marketing. And then I ended up moving from New York to California to partner with a guy that's a personal development guru. Some might know him. His name is John Asroff. And we built a company that he has now. And it was the first time that I experienced online education, because we ended up with 7,000 customers in 80 countries in the first couple of years and a few million in sales, which was all the great news. But the terrible news is that only 12% of the people were finishing our course. It was almost a $1,000 course. Did not sit well with either of us. And since I ran everything in terms of online for the company, it was my task to figure it out. But that was 2011, 2012, super early. And most of the online universities that were moving into the, most of the traditional universities moving into the online world were struggling. Everyone was struggling. And so we created some methodologies, a little piece of tech, we doubled it. And that was about the best we could do. I got bought out about 3.5 years later. So did my CTO. And about 4.5 years ago, he came to me with a little piece of software. It was an extension of what we had built. Said, hey, check this out. And I was consulting, doing digital marketing, which is what I was doing. And I began to look back into the online education space and recognize that my challenge of only 12% completion was actually on the high end, that the numbers are 3 to 12%. I'll get into that in a few minutes. And I said, that's outrageous. That's a $250 billion industry growing at 17% per annum. And it's an epic fail. So it's the greatest time in the world, and also the worst time. That's when I began to look and really try to figure out what changed since I really tried to fix what we had as a problem. And then I began to see, like, it was one of those moments in time where all these pieces came together, and I was like, wow, there's a lot more here today. So I'm going to step up and pull it all together and fix this industry globally. So that's my background. That's how I got into it. And, the last 4.5 years, I built Client Engagement Academy. I spent about 300 grand of my own money for the first year just building the tech stack and optimizing. It's a big responsibility because we're handling clients' customers. It's not like a website. If it goes down, you lose some traffic, and that's not a nice feeling, but it's not critical. But if our clients are paying $1,000 to $12,000 for a course, and they get 10 customers and they can't log in and they refund, we've got a problem. So it's a big responsibility, one. And then, developing the methodologies to drive completion rates up and hit our targets. So we get 40 to 80%. So that's sort of the backstory. I'll get into how we do it in a few minutes.
That is a fantastic, I'm hooked. I want to hear how you get these completion rates, because that is the perennial problem of the online world, not only from the higher education standpoint, but also definitely in the corporate world as well. And then when we talk about sort of just the consumer facing people who are in the room, people who have their own course, or, who are offering services to people who are in the, finding themselves working from home now, or interested in building up new skills because they've lost their job. They want to know how do I get people to come in, actually complete the course, be satisfied, and go from there. So what you want to talk about today is how, I love this. How do you make money doing this? How do you actually do this so that it's actually profitable? And I'm excited to see, it kind of has a broad range of what that means, right? It doesn't have to be sort of all marketing, all this, just profit driven, because you're all about relationships. So, how do you get people to complete and actually come back and rave about it and want more? So why don't you share your slides and take us off?
Yeah. And one thing I just want to, because you just sparked something. So when we define success, it's obviously engagement and completion rates. But there's other industries that you touched upon, like the corporate world. And maybe there's no way to measure it like we're measuring it in terms of completion rate, because it's not a consumer buying. So the common thread of measurement of success is what we call outcome. What is the outcome produced by any thought leader when they're taking somebody's time? Like right today, right? We're together. I'm the thought leader. People are going to spend the next 45 minutes with us. I have a responsibility to your audience to produce an outcome. That's the place that we're trying to get everybody to step into. And today with, Zoom, even, taking on, more and more popularity, and people now running to Zoom to be a presenter as a thought leader, it's I call it the Zoom boom to the Zoom bust. And even though this will be online for, probably the better part of 2020 and maybe into 2021, I'm making a call that we have a Zoom acceleration. They had 60 million new customers, and it's a novelty. But at the end of the day, any smart person is going to say, I just spent a half hour, 20 minutes, or an hour. What was the outcome? Now, they don't think of it in terms of the outcome, but as an educator, that's the place we have to stand in. And that's the place that my entire organization is built upon. So whether you're a corporate trainer, what is the outcome? If you're doing, a workshop for 2 hours, or a keynote talk, or even if you're doing continuing ed. So it's 100% completion. But we all sit there, and when we do continuing ed, like monkeys in front of a computer, just waiting for these tick marks every 15 minutes so we get our hour, and boom, our hour's done. But wouldn't it be so incredible if we actually changed that formula, where you were actually saying, this is interesting. My hour, I learned one thing that can make me better in one way, shape, or form. So the thread is woven between all different types of education. I don't want to talk about brick and mortar, but there's so many classes that you've been in and I've been in that you're just sitting there and just saying, really?
I don't want to admit that. I don't want to piss anybody off.
was a long time ago for me. So,
Yeah, me too. Me too. Sure, sure, sure.
those people definitely aren't teaching. Anyway, so let me share my slides, but that's really an important part of everything we speak about is what's the outcome. And that's really, and basically I've done 24,000 minutes of consulting in sort of free consulting calls / enrollment calls. And the common thread always is what's the outcome. I'm going to keep it like this because I'm not going to go through all these slides.
Oh, okay, great. Sure. Then, yeah,
Yeah.
you're good to go.
Yeah. And then if you ask me a question also, I want to be dynamic.
Perfect.
So that's also like, the fun part about being in this online education space is that I'm always training, but I'm always, it's a story about the story. So the nugget I just shared is that I said that I wanted to be dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crucial as an educator as well, because you want to be able to serve what the folks need the most. Just because you have, okay, I'm going to go like this through my presentation and you're just going to charge through. Well, maybe if you took a poll and you found out that, whoa, what I thought was most important for the second half is really not crucial for what they need this, then you should be able to adopt on the fly. So that's why I always leave them up like this. Maybe from a design standpoint, I won't look the nicest, but I really want to be dynamic, because if you have a crucial question, because you know your audience, then I can jump around and we can say, hey, let's address that now. So it's always training, but it's always the story about the story, which is the fun part of what we're doing. So let's get into what we're going to talk about. That's my information. And if anyone wants to reach me, and this is what we're going to talk about, how to make money from your online course. And then what I'm going to do is at the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you a keyword that you can actually email me, and then we'll basically email you these 4 documents, which are the profitability worksheet, the technology checklist, the chunking strategies, and the digital badge checklist. These are items that we use. They're gifts, and this is also another learning moment because this is gamification, right? I truly want everyone to stay to the end of the presentation to get all the nuggets. And if I was actually using this presentation to sell, which at the end you'll see I also have another gift, but if I was using this presentation to sell and it was teaching, then I certainly want everyone to be at the end of the presentation when I move in and start to enroll people. And that's how we use gamification in a presentation, but you should also use gamification throughout your online experience. Your site that you're using for education should have point scoring and leaderboards and digital badges that encourage people to be excited, and also with gamification to want to grab on to the next piece and keep moving in the direction you want them. So once again, a moment of this is what I'm doing, but I'm sharing. This is an easy way, if you're watching right now, to say, okay, I'm going to sell a course in a presentation. The crucial thing is to get people to stay to the end, because let's take the numbers, right? These are facts. If you get 1,000 people to register for a webinar, a third will show up if you're good. So let's just call it 300. So if 300 people show up and 50% stay to the end when you make your enrollment to get them to buy your course, that gives you 150 buyers. But if you use something like this and you say, okay, I'm going to give you an outrageous gift at the end if you stay to the end, and then you have, say, 2/3 stay at the end, which let's call it just, instead of 300, 100, call it 200 stay to the end. You've just doubled the people that will see your enrollment, which means that you're going to double your sales. So this is a key nugget. Who is this presentation right for? If you're thinking about creating an online course and you haven't yet, then this is a perfect. If you've got one out there and you're stuck, or you're a trainer, a corporate trainer, and you've done live presentations, but you can't figure out, okay, what do I need to know about the business to move into the digital world? And also this is for people that have topped out at 5 or 6 figures, or even doing 7 or 8 figures. And what we're going to cover is basically the client replacement versus the client accumulation model. It's crucial that everyone knows this if you're going to be selling courses, what this formula is and the impact it has on everything. And then one of the things that we're well known for is the digital badges. It's one of the things that caused me to pivot my entire business, get out of digital marketing and step in. And that's the digital badge. I'm going to show how that works. And then we're going to talk about the new online course world that we're in. So this is what I mentioned earlier. It's a $256 billion industry growing at 17% per annum. But the unhappy face in the bottom right is because it's broken. And so a lot of the stuff I'm sharing today is coming out of my communication, as I mentioned earlier as well, with literally thousands of thought leaders over the last 4 years. And basically, this is the misnomer. This is what we think as educators. We think we have life lessons to teach and a message to share with humanity. And we think our learners are looking at us like absolutely rock stars, right? I'm doing a great job. Every time I step on stage, people love me. Everyone that take my course, they think I'm the best. I've got the greatest information. And basically, this is really what the clients think, that they're wasting significant time trying to learn because your platform stinks or the course isn't designed right. After a few logins, they never return to the site. They become a customer support nightmare because they can't figure out what they're supposed to be learning or what the outcome is. So they're kind of constantly calling you or can't figure out where to navigate. They ask for a refund or they instigate a chargeback. This is really the world that the learner is living in. So when I said that this is the best time and this is the worst time, now let's look at some data. And this will show you that this is what I mean when I say this is the worst time. So this is the averages globally for the e-learning industry and business opportunity courses. That means anyone teaching how to build some kind of business online. It's 3% success rate. The MOOCs, Harvard, Yale, MIT, they're at like 4 to 6%.
What do you call in success rate? The people who actually complete the course and are happy with it? Or? Okay.
Yep, complete the course. Harvard, Yale, the MOOCs, they're in 4 to 6%. Udemy. Now, Udemy has got 30 million students and 40,000 instructors, and I think they're single-handedly going to be responsible for destroying a large portion of online education globally. Their model doesn't work, and I'm not picking on them because of I have nothing to do with Udemy, other than the fact that they basically have done the same thing that the discount brokerage firms did to the financial industry, is that when you reduce the price of courses to $10, you've actually basically de-incentivized everyone to create success. And that's what they've done. And the best instructors on Udemy only get 8% completion rates. And then personal development, which was the industry I was in, is 12%. So that's not okay. And if you want to look at it in another way where you can actually feel the impact, this is what it looks like. That's the failure rate. So imagine
I like this chart a lot. This chart is powerful. I like this one.
Yeah. Just imagine around the globe that we have really great people that want a transformation. They want a better life, right? When you buy an online course, at the point of sale, you're not buying the course. Or you're not like, oh, I need another course. You're buying the transformation, because anyone who's a trainer is actually selling a transformation. So if it's health, wealth, fitness, leadership, sales, real estate training, at the point of sale, every thought leader is saying, if you take the course and you follow the steps, you will be able to do this. So even if it's soft skills like parenting, we have a lot of parenting clients. That's a soft skill, but you will be able to be a better parent. That's a transformation. So every student is buying a transformation. And so they're paying with the hard-earned money. And to me, this is what made it not okay, because I actually experienced it in the company I was in, and I felt the pain of the 88% of the people that had no shot at a better life spending almost $1,000 with us. And then when I circled back, some 5 or 6 years later and recognized it's a global phenomena, that's what really pissed me off, to the extent that I said, I'm going to just kind of wreck my life for a few years, spend significant dough, as a startup, what it's like, you just work your ass off, crazy hours to actually make a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. And that's really the key, because this is not okay. And we're going to talk about the impact in a second. let me just bump down to here, which is basically, this is what we do as an organization. So we consult, we co-design, build, host, manage, and we then run our clients' platforms. And what that looks like is we're consulting on the curriculum. So we will actually build a curriculum. We have a curriculum design department with a woman with masters and one with PhD that just do instructional curriculum design. So that came into play about a year after we went live, recognizing that the vast majority of thought leaders, who are great people and have a lot to share in the world, haven't a clue about how to set and build a course based on science, brain science, of how our brain likes to learn. And once again, I'm not picking on anyone because I hadn't a clue. And I've learned so much from our great women. We have basically women in that department that have written, hundreds of college courses of really the difference between doing it right from a scientific standpoint and then doing it like normally we do it, which is make an outline, of what we want to teach, fill it in, and then teach it. So that's one part of it, which is the curriculum design. And we can either consult, build. The other part of it is our website that we build bespoke for every customer. It's designed and it continually gets better to actually eliminate what I call friction. Another key concept, which is, and this is, I'm not going to insult anyone because I'm going to consult myself as well, but the vast majority of people around the world suck at technology. And I'm a technologist, right? So I've been devouring technology since it came out for 20 years. But when they update my phone with a new operating system, I'm frustrated for 2 days. So if you think about all the people in the world that are potential learners on all the different types of internet speeds, on all the different types of devices, of every device that was 5 years or 10 years old to 6 months old, on all the different types of operating systems, on all the different types of browsers and browser versions, it's amazing that the entire thing even works. So you have to really create what I call the learner pathway in a way that you're continually getting better and you're not making people really create any friction or space, as they should spend most of their time learning and not with technology. And that's one of the big things that people, get hung up on, is they want, gamification like a kid's game with, levels and all that kind of crap. And that's not what people need. It's simple is better. And that's why Apple is one of the best companies in the world, because they got that. And when they launched the iPhone, it wasn't even the most advanced phone. It was, 80% of what everyone else could do, but 500% easier. And that's really the key. And then, of course, client engagement is really all the methodologies that we've developed with point scoring and leaderboards and dual client pathway and the badges and all the stuff that we do to keep the people engaged and get them moving. And we know that if you get them through 16% of the course, then, and it's a decent course, you'll have about 85% to 90% then get through the rest of the course. So how do you get them through the first 20%? Even the buyers, there's a big percentage of the buyers that buy something that don't even log in. So that's a lot of the stuff that we do. And we don't have time to go through all this, but I just want to put it up so people can kind of review this. This is course design, curriculum design. These are a lot of the things that we speak about and teach and do. This is the client engagement methodologies, and these are a lot of ours, the ones that we've developed. And then from a platform standpoint, just some other things that we developed as well. And the result of that is that we get 40 to 80% completion rates. So, that's great. But that also was our first target. And as an organization, if you want to get better and better, you got to do what Wayne Gretzky did. So I know this is all around the world and people might not be familiar with Wayne Gretzky. So let me just share who Wayne Gretzky is. He's one of the greatest hockey players ever. And he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the fastest. So how do you be the greatest? Well, he said, key to my success is I skate to where the puck's going to be. And it's simple. That's just an incredible, simple philosophy, is that you skate to where the puck's going to be. And so as an organization, our first target was to fix what we saw was broken, which is 3 to 12% completion rates. And so we do that. We're at 40 to 80%. But now as an organization, our target has stepped into outcome-based, skills-based learning, which is challenging our people, our thought leaders, in the development of the courses to get back into what the transformation is going to be and create really the structure in a way that people are learning skills so they can actually create a better life. And, just about in every case, no matter what you're teaching, we can put that challenge to you as well. That's the place that you should stand in. So these are some of the clients that I've worked with. They're Digital Marketer and Dan Kenny, GKIC, and Advantage Forbes Media, and Wiki Reports, and Profit First, and about 60 different companies we built and run their platforms for. So that's the backstory. Maybe it's a good time to take a pause and see if you've got anything that pops up for you.
Personally, no. It's a great backstory. I'm super excited to. Sorry, I'll turn my video back on. It's a great backstory, and I love the focus on outcomes. I love the focus on success, and I'm really shocked at the actual completion rates. And I'm just super interested to see how do you go from 3% to actually getting 40 to 80%. Depending on what where you're doing. And I'm sure that's the secret sauce. That's you'll share that with people who sign up with you afterwards. But those are the things that I've taken away from that first part right now.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that obviously, monthly training, when you charge monthly, the numbers for monthly training are just as discouraging because the people stay in monthly for 3.8 months on average globally.
So that's more like a membership model, right?
The membership model. That's the same model that we're about to get into. Like it's churning customers,
mm-hmm.
which is avoidable. And most times, I tell people during the presentation that what you've done so far is the best you could do, because you weren't aware. Right? Because most people aren't aware of what I'm sharing. That's the facts. Otherwise, if they were aware, they would try to do something differently. But so the good news is it's not your fault up to this point. But the bad news is post this presentation.
now you're going to have the knowledge. Better way. Now you have no excuse.
Exactly. The responsibility shifts to you. So
take us there, Mike.
Perfect. So let's get into this. This is really crucial. Client replacement versus client accumulation. So I'm showing you some real data here. I took the 3 to 12% and I created an average of 5.2% as the industry average of completion rates. And the number to the right, the big, the taller green line, that's Digital Marketer, which is one of our really great core clients. So I consulted, co-designed, built, host, managed, ran, and launched their certification program. In fact, there are 10 certifications. Took them from 0 to, well into 7 figures. And it's a certification program, so the requirements to get through are steeper. 6 modules with a lot of hours of training, but the key was a 66-question final in every single one of them, which was tough. And so that number of 32.36% was the average across all of the 10 certifications. That's a factual number as of a couple of years ago. I don't know what their numbers are today. So I want to use these numbers to really show from a mathematical standpoint, because this is where we're getting into some of the meat of, look, if you're interested in creating an online business, you need to know this. Or if you have one, you need to know this, because when you understand the difference between client replacement and client accumulation, that new framework will help you do whatever is necessary to get to accumulation, right? Because if you don't even know this part of it, then you don't even know what's wrong. So it's the framework to begin to create the diagnostic to move you to accumulation, if that makes sense. So let's take a look at a model that I put together. And in the red, that's the industry average. So that is the completion rate you'll see here of where my mouse is, 5%. And then this is the completion rate at 33%. So it's the same numbers we're using here. I just took 5% and 33%.
Sure.
And we're running it through 10,000 people coming in to the course. First course, 10,000 people in. Well, if we go down the red column, 10,000 times a 5% completion rate, it's 5.3, but I just made it easy. It gives you 520 clients that complete the course. And you should be able to take 1/3 at a minimum of the people that complete the course and have them buy your second course. So that would leave you with 172 new buyers of a $2,000 course. You would make $343,200 in your second course sales from 10,000 initial customers. So when we look at the digital marketer certification program and we run it against 33%, you would have 3,260 people as candidates for your second purchase. And the same percentage of 33%, you would have 1,076 buyers. At a 2,000 price point, you would generate $2,151,600 of sales. And here's really the crucial point. For the same amount of Facebook advertising spend, digital marketing, content marketing, LinkedIn, everything you do in the front end, all your funnels, all your presentations where you make an offer to come in to get those 10,000 people, for the same amount of energy and effort, you're able to create $1,808,400 worth of additional profits. And that's truly the key. Because this is another secret to your business, is that it doesn't matter what your gross sales are. And people get hung up on this, and this is one of the problems with online, right? Facebook. First of all, when I first entered as a stockbroker in 1987, New York City is the hotbed for this. My mentor told me, you're going to be at bars, you're going to be here, and people are going to tell you that they do this much in commissions a year. He said, it's complete bullcrap. Cut it in half, cut it in half, and cut it in half again. Maybe that will be accurate. And that's the same thing with the online world. You have all these people saying, oh, I'm doing $1 million launch. And it's not true, because I'm in this world. And it's unfortunate, but it makes people feel small because you're comparing yourself to something that you think's big, and it's false. But that's not even the point, because it doesn't matter how much you generate in gross sales. The only thing that matters is how much you keep at the end of the month. That's
I was just going to say, business isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you keep, right? That's a pretty famous line.
Yeah. And when we're evaluating in the online course world, it's such a beautiful business. Now, one of the other keys is that when you acquire a customer, you don't actually make that much, because the cost to acquire a customer is expensive. And it not only is expensive, it gets more expensive every year. So the margins, the profit margins on the first acquisition are small. Maybe it's 10 or 20%. So you sell something for, $500, you might make 10% is $50 or $100. That would be a great job, because then you would have a profitable formula to acquire customers. But when they buy the second product at $500, let's say the same price, it's a 90% profit margin. So you're making almost $500 every sale. So one way, you're making $50 every sale. And on the second product, the third product, the fourth product, the 10th product, and we saw that with digital marketing. Most people went on to buy everything. You're making almost $500 per sale. That drives profits.
Mm-hmm.
And that drives a great business model. Now, Stephen, you own a number of different businesses. I mean, maybe this is a good point for you to step in, because this part of what we're talking about, I don't really find anyone talking about when it comes to online education. But it's so important to know, because we want to break it down to its simplest form. And what I'm sharing falls back to my initial conversation. It's all about outcome. Because if you create the outcome in the first course, you earn the right for people to buy the second and third. Notice the word, earned the right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not hitting them with a sledgehammer, tactical tricks, or trying to upsell, or all this crazy stuff people have to do. You earn the right. And guess what? This suit, I don't know what it is, but I used to always buy, I rarely wear suits, but I used to always buy Hugo Boss suits. For some reason, right off the rack, they fit. But after I bought the first one with very little tailoring, and everyone complimented my suit, they didn't have to keep hammering me to come into Hugo Boss. Every time I needed another suit, I went there. Mm-hmm. That's how we are as human beings. If someone says, take my course, this is a transformation, and you deliver, and you have other courses that they're interested in, they will buy everything that you have.
And I'll give I like to give a non-financial example, and something, from the consulting world, which I was in for 15 years. One of the things that everybody always asked me, that I mentored people on, they're like, how do you do networking? Right. I always find it complicated. I always find it difficult and this and that. And I said, look, networking is really the easiest thing in the world. You just got to go offer and ask people what they need help with. And they're going to tell you what you need help with. And what your job is to say, hey, look, either I can help you do that, or I probably know somebody who could help you do that. Right. And so what my point here is the outcome is that you're adding value, right? But by adding value, you're then inviting them into your life, you're inviting them into your network. And as soon as you start proving value, as soon as you start delivering that value, guess what? Who do they always call? You're the guy who then they always call for whatever problem they have. It's like, hey, Vladik, do you know a person who does this? Or do you know, I'm having this problem, can you do that? I'm just trying to bring it back to the concept of, if you're providing that outcome of value, people are going to not only stick with you, but they're going to come back to you, and they're also going to refer other people to you. So,
and you just segued into the next part. It was beautiful. Thank you.
We didn't plan this. We didn't plan this. This is all extemporaneous.
Yeah. So it's just perfect. So let me just go back to sharing. So that's really the key. And you can use, this is one of the, if you stay, when you stay to the end, I should say, we're going to give you this model to look at, and you can model it. And like I said, if you're in business, and this applies, look, we have a dedication now to corporate trainers as one of our core customers to work with, because most of them, this year had their entire slate of, live training, either workshops or keynote speakers, wiped out.
Oh, yeah.
So we've developed a new program to help them quickly get into digital training. So the model for them is very similar, because they're going to be judged by the HR department on outcome, right? Because if they're making an investment of 50 or 100, $250,000 or $1 million to have 1,000 or 10,000 of the workforce or leadership, take and experience that training, at the end of the day, it always comes back to the same conversation, is that you will always get rehired if you're creating outcome. And if you don't, and people don't love what you're doing, then you're going to end up in the client replacement, trying to find the next corporation to work with and the next one. And instead of accumulating them, because we want to get people out of trading time for money. And even if, like, I spoke to someone a month and a half ago, and I kind of insulted him because I thought, most of the people, a $25,000 keynote speech is a good one. And so he's like, Mike, well, I just got an engagement with one of the top 10 insurance companies in the world, and they're paying me $262,000 for the year. I was like, whoa, that's great. I said, what's entailed? Well, I did a two-day workshop, and then twice a month I'm on for the year. And I said, well, that's great. But you're like, how many of those can you do? Because you're still trading time for money. And the point of online education and the digital world is that that's where you can create leverage, but it doesn't work unless you're creating outcomes. So I want to make sure that no matter who's watching this, you can kind of, read into this, into however you're doing your training. So that's really the key. Now let's get into this, which you segued perfectly with, is how to get leads for free and your clients to brand you as a global leader. So this is what a digital badge looks like. This is Digital Marketers Digital Badges. And the world of digital badges was birthed about a half a dozen years ago, maybe now 6 years ago, by Mozilla, who owns Firefox. Now, this part of the story I make up because I don't know their story, but I kind of have a feeling of why they stepped in. The online course world is very similar to the book world, where the majority of the books aren't even open. And when you compare the online course world to brick and mortar, the numbers I share of 3 to 12% are terrible. But when we share that with, in the United States, 4 years of college, the averages are 65% completion rate. 4 years, 65% completion rate. And why? Because the framework, the mindset's completely different. You don't go to college to try college. You go to college to complete, or your MBA, or your doctorate, or to become an accountant, or whatever it is, even the advanced degrees. So over the last 500 years, the brick and mortar have figured out, like if we hold a diploma at the end, and when they finish, they get to take possession of that diploma, and they can get a ROI on the diploma. A return on investment means that if you spent 4 years now and $200,000 to get a college degree, then you spend another $200,000 to get your, say, MBA from Harvard, you would have spent $400,000 or $500,000. Well, how do you would have to have a way to get that back, and you will get a better, higher paying job with a Harvard MBA. And even when you're 50 looking for a job, you'll still be swinging around that diploma. So the model that they created 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago with brick and mortar is come, earn a diploma, use it, get a better paying job. So that I call ROI, but for education, I call it return on education. It didn't exist. There was no way to memorialize somebody's success with online coursework, or even month to month to month. How do you memorialize a milestone? Or even sort of extracurricular training that is valuable to the learner, no way to memorialize their success. Now, there have been badges that have been around for, I call it the caveman, right? You went out and you hunted a big elephant versus a small elephant. You got 5 stripes versus 2 stripes. So it's been around forever. That's how humans work. The Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, all the military around the world. So there's probably 100 examples, but we gotta just keep moving. So badges work. We like them. We want a send to get badges. Brick and mortar figured it out that you can actually give somebody something that they can actually use for the rest of their life. Didn't exist. So Mozilla, who created Firefox, said, we are a global organization. We can do that. And they created the open source digital badge framework, which is a technology that allows educators for the first time to disseminate or give a badge when someone completes or hits a milestone. And it can be any milestone. It can be a milestone for completing the course, but if the course is about Facebook advertising, you could then also give a milestone for their first 10,000 fans that they got. So it is an incredibly powerful way to focus somebody, the learner's attention on what I call the target, the finish line. And so what it does is, one, reframes the learners, because you're bringing this conversation of how your course works all the way to the top of your funnel or your presentation. That means that I'm now sharing, this is how it works. When you buy my course, you come in, you take the lessons, you take the quizzes, you take the final exam, and when you're finished, you earn your badge, which you can share everywhere. So that's one thing, it reframes it. The second thing is it uses the target, the gamification, the finish line for people to actually then be excited to get. So they created this, it was the 1.0 version, and now it's actually the 2.0 version, which is doing things that are even more incredible. Like when somebody, this is where we go back to skills-based learning. When someone, say, takes the content marketing one, this is not happening with digital marketers, so I don't want to get anyone to think that this is happening, but this is how it should happen. You take the content marketing specialist. That means you have acquired new skills. When you get your digital badge, we can send in the badge the meta data of what those specific skills were. And when you go in to claim your badge, which is free for the learner, it would then go with the metadata, match up to the database in the US of skills that you acquired with job openings, and give you a list of job openings based on skills. So it's just the beginning. Digital badges are they continue to be the future of where we're going. So it's crucially important. We have a 100% adoption rate with our customers with digital badges, because if someone doesn't buy in to the power of a digital badge, we don't take them as a customer. So that's how you get a 100% adoption rate. Now, how does it work? So usually I can speak about this for 4 hours, but I want to keep going. So I'm just going to give you the quick framework. When you finish, you get the badge. You log in and you can share it to your social media. So this is sharing it basically on the left or the right, however you see it. One is LinkedIn, one is Facebook. So that is, you log in, oh wow, I want to share my badge. Now obviously the world is made now for us to share success, right, with all the social media. So you can actually also put it on your blog, your email signature, your website. So super powerful. Now what happens is that the special magic is it's live. It's a live image that carries that metadata. So when anyone clicks on it, they end up here, which is a place that is going to share what they have attained. And you can put the grade in there. You can put basically you build this however you want from the educator's perspective. So you're empowering the learner and you're telling people what they went through to get it. And by the way, when they're here, all of our friends or business associates, this is where you get to create what I call the viral social loop. Mm-hmm. So imagine all of your customers, and this is why it's crucial to create courses that work, that create outcomes. And they're sharing it all over the world. And all the people are like, what's that? That's interesting. And they end up here finding out about your course. That's what I call the viral social loop. And what it looks like is this. Now, this number is super old. The number for digital marketers is probably well over 10 million global impressions. And this number is old, but you can see this also represents the quality of the impressions. So maybe I'll let you take just a second to explain what an impression is.
You've caught me off guard, Mike. What do you mean by what an impression is? Like somebody who actually shows up on a web page and is, viewing that information? Because that's usually what an impression entails.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So most people don't get the connection. So when you advertise on all the Facebook or LinkedIn or any of those places, they charge you either by a click or by an impression. An impression means that someone sees the ad.
Right.
Right? It's like you're driving down the highway, you see a billboard, you get charged by how many eyeballs are going to be passing your billboard. A lot of eyeballs, expensive billboard. Very few eyeballs, not so expensive. So what's incredible when we look at this data that I'm sharing is that when your best friends are sharing it, your best clients are sharing it all over for you, they're creating impressions globally for you. They're literally branding and advertising for you. And they're branding and advertising their success. Mm-hmm. So when we look at what this looks like, this was 2 million impressions on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Now let's go into the math because I think everyone now knows I love math. Let's model it, okay? Digital badge impressions, 2 million around the world. And let's say 10% of those people basically said, wow, my friend finished that course. These are the new skills. Can you just give me information about what that course is about? That's 200,000 leads for free. Mm-hmm. And if you say those are warm prospects because they're not cold off the internet, they came from their best friend or acquaintance, and 3% convert, that's 6,000 new customers at $500. That's $3 million with 100% profit margin. So in the beginning, we said, let's talk about this presentation. What's the title? How to make money with online courses. But we haven't spoken about anything that has to do with marketing, advertising, lead gen, landing page conversion, marketing automation, sales pages, order pages, webinars, offer pricing, nothing about anything that happens before the order page. Mm-hmm. This is the part that really, it goes back to what I said before, what I learned from being a stockbroker is that the relationship started after I got the customer. That's where people are missing the entire boat. It's called lifetime customer value. What is the lifetime customer value? It's easy. You say they're going to be with me for 5 years and they'll buy 10 things and maybe it accumulates, it's $5,000 worth of stuff. Well, that's powerful. But if you only have a first sale and it's maybe $500, the lifetime value of your customer is $500. So your business, the lifetime value of the customer is $500. Mine is $5,000. So, well, what does that allow me to do? Well, if you're only going to pay, say, $100 for a customer, I can pay $1,000 for a customer. Mm-hmm. So I will outmarket you every minute of every day because my math allows me to run a better business and a more powerful business and be the elephant in the room. So when we focus on everything that happens after they make the purchase, which is everything about creating an outcome, and we just focus on that, becoming better and better at that, everything else will take care of itself. And this is the thing that I can't stress enough for everybody, because the sad truth is that most people are spending 95% of their energy trying to acquire the customer, get the customer, or, you know, get the next talk. But if you actually balance it out a little bit and spend time focusing on creating outcomes, a lot would change. So that's really one of the great keys. And the last thing, how are we doing for time? So we're just going to spend just a few more minutes on this, which is the new online education framework. And, you know, once again, I know this is going to be out there for a while, so maybe it's going to be dated, but who knows? I mean, we might be dealing with this for the next 6 months, or they say it's going to come back in the fall or next winter. You know, I personally think that because of the coronavirus, that things will permanently change in some way, unknown right now. But when we look back on this, they will. And so, like everybody else, you know, we got hurt. You know, I share with you, I had coronavirus, and it was, you know, I wasn't in the hospital, but pretty close actually. I actually tried to get myself to the doctor, but I couldn't make it there. So I just went back into bed. I survived. There's a lot of people that haven't. So, you know, also my mom and dad got it. My dad was in the hospital on oxygen, so he's out now. So it's a different world. And so we had a change. So normally when we build our online platforms bespoke for our customers, you know, the base price is like $15,000 to $20,000. If we're going to do curriculum design, it's around $1,000 per lesson. If we take on, we can write, you know, out of a book, we can write a course. Out of a keynote speaker, anything that's recorded, we can write courses. So roughly $800 to $1,000 a lesson. We have a coaching software that bolts onto our platform. You know, depending on the complexity of internal coaches or external coaches, you know, that adds up. So that's an expensive but very effective solution. And so that was really great pre-coronavirus. Post-coronavirus, we've actually had to look at the market and figure out how can we be a better service? How can we help more thought leaders faster and quicker do what they do best, which is teach, because the world needs it even more, right? Most people are stuck at home around the world. So that's a workforce that's never done that before. Mm-hmm. And they're, you know, just talking about workforce, that's stressful. 1 or 2 parents working with kids, now both home. Management doesn't know how to deal with that. The C-level suites don't know how to deal with that. The leadership doesn't know how to deal with that. Everyone's just trying to figure it out. But if you're teaching and you're a corporate trainer teaching leadership, then you don't want to teach leadership and say, hey, when you're, you know, the next time you're in a live event, you know, do this. You want to be the solution to the problem that everyone has today. And that means that you need to adapt very quickly. That means you need to be dynamic. And so that's what we've done. And I'll just share the framework so you can actually think about how you can get into this framework to be the solution to the problem that people either know or don't even know they have. That's what it takes right now to really be successful. When the corona first hit, you do what's natural and you contract, right? You basically, you hunker down. You do what you need to do to make sure you're going to be okay to the best you can. But then you can't stay in a contracted state because the world needs educators right now more than ever. If you stay contracted, and that's the way you stay, and waiting for the thing to end, the visual I give everyone is that if you stay that way, it's the start of a triathlon race, which is starting with the swim, and there's 1,000 people all lined up in the sand. They say go, and they jump into the water, and then everyone is just swimming and kicking and pounding each other in the head. And people are gasping for air and you're getting kicked and elbowed just to get like a half, let me back up, a half ahead. If you stay contracted right now today and you're just waiting for things to get better, that's how your life is going to be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone's going to be fighting for the next piece of business. And that's not okay, because our job as a leader in online education is to basically hunker down, which we did, and then figure out a solution to the problem for thought leaders. And that is, we want you to be in training now. Now, the challenge is that everybody's hurt financially. So the solution is create something that is a low price point so everybody wins. And I'm going to share what that looks like. So we created something that is basically a month-to-month training program. We created the framework so people can learn from us or become our customer. And what it looks like is very, very simple. So we created our own program. It's called the Profit Maximizer VIP monthly membership. And what it entails strictly is this: one recorded training per month, which is the theme of the month. And it's recorded. Notice that recorded because we don't want to put undue pressure on our thought leaders to be live. Mm-hmm. And every month, live. That becomes no fun. And so you can actually lay down a recording on Zoom, or there's many different, you can lay down a recording on your iPhone or your Android device or your just get a tripod and a little mic. You can lay down a recording, and it can be 10 minutes to 20 to 30 minutes, whatever it takes. The last recording I just did was on LinkedIn training. It was 55 minutes. How to make money from LinkedIn. It was, I didn't even know it was going to be 55 minutes, but I was screen sharing and showing how we're doing it. That's okay. Not everyone, but one can be like that. And then what we do is we create a challenge. It's a monthly challenge. So this goes back to the entire philosophy of learn and do, because we want them to acquire something that they can actually try. Now, not everything is going to be applicable to everybody, but if you're teaching something and they can try one or two things, that's where you put together the challenge. And the challenge is, okay, this is what we taught. This is what I want you to try to do, and measure it and see how it works. And then the third part, which is usually the third part of the month, is a live Q&A. And that's where people can get answers to the questions. Questions to the answers, answers to the questions. So that's where they get access to you. That's where you get to build your brand and create connection, and that's irreplaceable. Now, why is a live Q&A live? Because that you can do from anywhere. If it's the third Tuesday of the month, you can do a live Q&A anywhere in the world, any time zone. You just deliver consistently. So the monthly is the recorded training. It's the challenge for the month, which is the learn and do, and a live Q&A. We also are recording the live Q&A, so they're available. We have a little toolbox to put up any tools that you want to have people to get access to. And then we give what we call monthly bonus bucks. Every month that they're in, they acquire 25 bonus bucks, 50, 75, 100. That's gamification. So while they're still a customer, they accumulate. If they keep accumulating, they can use it towards any future product. So you might not have another product yet. But if just imagine 6 months in, 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, everyone has 150 bonus bucks, and you come out with your next course that's $500. Whoa, that's pretty amazing, because they want to use their bonus bucks. So that's the gamification part. It's super sweet and simple. We're actually doing it for about $6,000 to get someone up and live and training right away. We put it in a way where it's basically the framework of our big thing, so it's not a throwaway site. So down the road, you can add more. Now, here's really the key. So we learn as we're doing this. So I've had a couple corporate trainers say, Mike, well, even $6,000 is hard right now. I said, fine. You know we're going to deliver because you know what we do. Go pre-sell it. Go call up your clients that have been hiring you for 10 or 20 years and say, hey, I'm coming out with this monthly training. It's going to be doing this, this, and this. And this is what it's going to happen every month. And go win. Go win the business. So yeah, if you do that, I'll give you my 1,000 corporate leaders. And then what I believe we should do in this environment is offer a incentive because of the environment. So normally, if you would have 1,000 people in and you would charge 50, 100 grand for the year, you could do it for 10 grand. Corporations can't afford 10 grand. And so you might not make a lot of money. If you end up with 3 or 4 or 5 corporations, you might make 30 or 40 or 50 grand. That will get you over the hump for the next 2 or 3 or 4 months. But here's the key. You will already be training. The corporation wins because you're working with their leadership. They need it. The corporation wins because the leadership is going to be able to work with their employees. Now, here's the big win. You can tell the corporation that when things settle down, whether it's 30, 60, 90, or 120 days, we'll square up, right? Because the incentive, I can't give you the incentive forever. And so here's where you stand in the place of outcome. If you do what you should be doing, which is creating this outcome, you'll be able to go back to them down the road and say, hey, you got it for 10, normally it was 100, would you do the rest of the year for 25? And you're gonna get the yeses. And so this is the way where you are not even in that sprint, pounding over the head. Those are the people that stayed contracted. They're gonna be fighting for the first new job. But when we come, and I call this the strategy of preeminence, and we look to figure out how can we solve the problems using our special expertise today, and we can get this up in a couple of weeks, and we can start being of service, and you're in the business of training, when things come around, you're the person that's going to actually just go from, from struggling to thriving. So that, I hope, is of a lot of value to everybody. And any questions, I'll open it up right now with you. I also want to be able to provide value to everyone that's on here. So I don't know exactly how we're going to do it, other than the fact that right now, our VIP, Profit Maximizer, which is normally $97 a month, we're offering it for free. And
Wow.
we're not doing tricks. We're not trying to get your credit card and bill you in 30 months. It's free. Like, you just give us basic information and you get access, and we'll square up in 30 or 60, or I don't know if it's going to be 90 or 120 days. So for all the people that are on the presentation, that is my my gift. I guess what I'll do is just give them, you can just email us. I don't have it's not like a mass marketing thing. This is to our community. I'm on LinkedIn. So I guess this is fine, right? Because people can just email me and say, hey, I was on the presentation. I would like access to the VIP, and we'll just do it.
Yes, usually what we do is that we offer that to the people who have paid for an all access pass. But if you'd like to offer that to everyone who's in the room, that's your prerogative.
Okay. Well, given the circumstances,
I think that I honestly, it's great. I love that you're, offering this value for everyone who's in the room right now, and everyone who's going to be in the room, down the line. So
this is also the key, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have stayed to the end.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not everybody. It's not everyone in the community. It's the people that were really interested in this that stayed to the end.
I agree 100%. 100%.
Yeah, and we'll also
honestly, this is what I really like about this is the only offer like this in the summit, right? And so I say we leave it as it is. I think that you've put a lot of value on the table. I'm excited to have this offer for everyone who's in the room right now. And heck, just run with it. Let's, Mike at clientengagementacademy.com right there. They can ping you there and just say, hey, look, I heard about you on the e-learning success summit, and I want to get in.
The other thing also I'll share is that if it's 60 or 90 days down the road and we've moved it up to 97, we'll also do something as an incentive for your group as well, maybe at 47. So we'll figure that out. But if someone's not interested in coming into that, then just go to our website, because we've got a white paper on the digital badges. We've got a white paper on AI and education. We've got 2 worksheets on curriculum design that are free. This is all free. We've got an ebook that's free. And we've got an incredible case study that's free as well. And then every Wednesday is Weiss Wednesday, and I'm shooting video training that's like 4 to 10 minutes that's available. So there's like 24 sessions of that. So we've got also a ton of free content as well.
Fantastic. Mike, why don't you take down your screen for a second, because all of this
Yeah.
information will be available on the